Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Canaan STL podcast. This is Pastor Daniel, and of course, this is brought to you by Canaan Baptist Church, where we exist to connect you to what matters most, to God, people, and to purpose. Joined today by Pastor Nathan, our new worship pastor, as Pastor Martin is still in Senegal. They are still awaiting for Terry to get a negative COVID test so they can get on a plane. But so keep praying for them. As they continue to just be still and wait on the Lord and trusting Him and His timing. But Nathan, glad you're here with us today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Yes, we're continuing in prayer and for the testing and the timing to work out and God providing either way.
Yep, absolutely. Well, today we thought we would do kind of something different. We thought that we would go through with all of you listeners kind of a little process of how do we determine the songs we sing on Sunday, and specifically Nathan's process for even what songs he's ready to recommend. So kind of every week, Nathan and I get together on a Monday, and he brings in a recommendation for that week, and we 99 times out of 100 go with that recommendation, right? But Nathan, just kind of walk us through the whole process. You know, I know it includes your acronym MELTS, but before you get to MELTS, what is the whole process that you go through to prayerfully discern the songs that we should sing on any given Sunday?
Yes, it is an intentional process. I want to give the caveat too that this is something that has surely been done at Canaan always by my predecessors for decades. Careful song selection, careful choice of what we're choosing to recommend to the mouths of the congregation is such a vital thing. And whether it's been done as an internal process through prayer and study and figuring things out by worship pastors in the past, or if it's done in a committee, in a group, it's been done on purpose. It's important to do on purpose. But that's something, yes, Pastor, as you said, we're trying to do, and I appreciate your willingness to commit to a time. Yes, we sit down every week, and like clockwork, we're there on a Monday, and the process includes going back through the service that just occurred. We do some of that as a full staff, but then the two of us talking about kind of the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts, what worked well, what didn't. And it's important to look back, look in the rearview mirror and see that. But there's a reason the rearview mirror is smaller. The windshield is bigger, looking ahead very carefully as to what's to come. And then there's all sorts of things. Often you're stuck with a laundry list of questions from me, still in my new state of, what would you recommend here? What should I do here? What about that and this? And you're so patient in answering the miscellaneous questions I have. But then we move into planning. We check in on things we've previously planned and thought out. Confirming they still work well, any tweaks, any changes, any other pastors we have to bring into the process if they're preaching and need to be consulted. And then we move to kind of the next one in line. We try to stay at this point, and with how soon you plan your sermons, we can certainly do this and have done it before, moving even further weeks out. But right now, we're at the point we're planning. Let's see, Pastor, we just planned yesterday, dating this podcast. Sorry, we're recording on a Tuesday. We just planned February 20th. And so getting to that point, getting that 2 weeks and change, nearly 3 weeks out, that's what's planned fresh. I'll bring in suggestions, things that might work with your stated sermon topic, your scriptural passages you're reading from. And then I'll try to bring in too many, and then you can really narrow it down with the theme. We'll say, are we introducing a song? We're bringing in something special. This song hasn't been done in a while. Let's bring this in. What matches with tempo and fast-paced, slow-paced, works into your message, comes out of your message. All those things, considering what is planned further out for what comes in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So walk us through. You have a very interesting process that you go through personally when you're ready to bring a new song to Canaan, whether it's a new song that's been newly written or maybe a song that's been around for decades, but Canaan just never has done it. or not done it much. So you have an acronym you use to kind of govern a process by which you really go through a song and you look at it from many different aspects to discern if this is a song that we should use here at Canaan. So could you talk to us about your acronym that you use?
Well, it came over the years. In my career, I've worked with a pastor on occasion that was very hands off, and that felt like an unmoored feeling. Just choose songs however you wish, and there was little to no oversight, and it felt like I was kind of adrift at sea as far as guidance. These are theological messages. There's such importance to these songs. They're so vital, and not only do they lead into your sermon, but they're in themselves statements rich in scripture and rich in theological truth and devotional excellence. They're so important to be chosen well. Then I've worked with pastors where they were the maybe even the soul deciders, and I was kind of the idea factory, and that felt strange and almost clinical, transactional, robotic in a way. I'm grateful for the chance to have this balance here, and that you're okay with the balance. That I'm absolutely craving accountability, but doing it in a formal way. Again, it's not for everybody. This has been done well at Canaan, I'm sure, for a long time. It's just this flavor. Years ago, I tried to quantify, Pastor, the unquantifiable. You can't really put your finger precisely on everything about music and worship through singing that makes it effective. It is musical, it is physical, it is acoustic, it is spiritual. But I gave a good go at it anyway to try to quantify the unquantifiable. And what I came up with is, as you mentioned, and was then refined by pastoral counsel at the time, is the acronym MELTS, MELTS. Like snow melts in the sunshine, and we hope that the snow that might be coming.
There might be some snow melting this week. Yes,
please. But may it the snow will melt in the sunshine, but it melts, and that's it is not in any order of importance. It's an order of. I think I can remember that acronym and have it as a mnemonic in my brain. I could have done SMELT if I was into like metalworking maybe, but MELTS is what I went with, and that stands for. Musically interesting. The M is musically interesting. Again, these are in no order of importance. E is encouraging a worshipful response. So I'll go back and explain. Musically interesting, does it sound like a lot of other songs we've heard or done, or does it sound musically distinctive in some way? That's the M. The E, encouraging a worshipful response. Does singing this proposed song feel like reading a textbook, giving a dissertation, or does it seem to encourage a genuine connection in worship to God? Can people sing it honestly and mean it? The L is lyrically robust. Is it just a repeated snippet, which might have its purpose, a verse and a chorus, or is it actually many rich sections of well-worded text, a lot of verses, a good meaty bridge, things like that? T is theologically accurate. I mean, that's the most important one, honestly. That one's a pass-fail. That's not included in the score. I actually rate these by numbers, but the theologically accurate isn't included because it has to be there. Pass-fail, must be theologically accurate. And then S of MELTS is singable. Does it avoid long stretches in an extremely high or extremely low range for the congregation? And is it sticking usually between a C and a C in that octave, which is where most hymnals have put songs for a reason? And does that range mainly stay there and only depart on occasion? We check those things too. Is the rhythm doable and learnable? Those sorts of things. That's MELTS.
Okay, so you mentioned that you do kind of have a scoring system.
Yes.
So you go through the first one, musically interesting.
Yes, sir.
So how do you arrive at a objective score for a certain song? You don't know, a scale of 1 to 10? Is that what you do?
I do. I like a figure skating judge.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
a scale of 1
Right.
to 10. That's
So
right.
how do you quantify musically interesting? How do you arrive at an objective numerical score based on something that is probably realistically more subjective?
Yeah. Some days better than others,
Okay,
Pastor.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
All right.
and
Let's
that's
get fair
that's
on
one of the
it.
things. I mean, and I crave this. I know that you're so kind to want to strike a balance and give me plenty of latitude. And I think sometimes when you've given me latitude, I've tried to give it back because I was like, no, Pastor, I'd like to email you this. So I will absolutely send you a link to the song demonstrated on video, something like YouTube.
Yeah.
The lyrics specifically and only that they may be read out and pondered. Both those links for any song candidate. And of course, these song candidates, some that you suggest, some that I might have that I hear, some that others suggest. But every one of them, I will rate them, Pastor, to your point, out of 10. But then because I am not confident in trying to quantify the unquantifiable, I will usually include a paragraph as to why, and kind of hem and haw and figure it out and have you read it and check me and say, Nathan, that's way off.
Yeah.
Or Nathan, that's okay, that's close-ish.
So let's go into an example. So recently you've introduced the song "Yet Not I, But Christ Who Lives Within Me."
Yes, sir.
Is that the full title?
Yeah,
Or is it
it's
just
a long one. Yet not I, but through Christ in me.
through
Yes.
Christ in me? Okay. So you've introduced that, and you have your breakdown, your Melt's breakdown of that song. So what does your paragraph say on musically interesting for "Yet Not I"?
I'm glad you asked, and you did warn me. I will be accountable to the podcast. I've got it here in front of me. I will tell you exactly what I wrote down.
Let's let it rip.
Yes, sir. I rated it the lowest of any of the scores. Musically interesting, I rated it as an 8 out of 10. So I guess a B- in that regard. I said there's a good amount of melody contained in each hymn-like verse, really kind of like a unique verse-chorus combo, more than enough to avoid feeling vanilla. Yet not I, but through Christ in me is straightforward, but it allows for a musical building each time, adding instruments and energy throughout the song. The arrangement feels like a steady march forward due to the use of the drums, kind of pulling us along in intensity. My rating of it as an 8 is that if it weren't so rich in other areas, people might see it as kind of a steady, not taking a lot of maybe musical risks, doing some gentle things. In this regard, we judged it as it complements the song well, but musically interesting, it got a lower score, some, but it's not its distinctive flavor, I would say, for that song.
Okay, very good. So you gave it an 8 out of 10. So let's go to the next one, the E,
Yes, sir.
which you defined the E as encouraging response.
Yes, sir. Encouraging a worshipful response.
Okay.
I know. See, I needed a vowel in Melts. That's what I did. I couldn't do MW. It needed the vowel. But on that one, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Again, trying to quantify a worshipful response. I wrote that it's interesting how the song uses personal pronouns throughout. I's instead of we's, yet not I, but through Christ in me. I can sing I am free is a phrase in the song, yet it feels quite natural, and we've done it at Canaan to sing it in agreement with a group. It's even emphasized in the original recording. Other singers you hear when you're listening to the group CityAlight do it, who wrote the song CityAlight wrote it. They had singers joining in immediately, and it felt natural to do so. So I gave it a score of 9 out of 10 in my little rubric of E.
Okay. So the L, lyrically robust.
Yes.
Where did you land there? I would assume high. It's got a lot of great truth in it.
I kind of geeked out. I blew up your inbox with this one, Pastor. I really did. I gave it a 10. And you have no way of knowing this, but that's very rare to give it so many high scores. A song candidate. I wrote in paraphrase that CityAlight did a lot of refining in the process. I read about it. They competed other songs against each other, and they edited them, and they pushed at them, and they prodded them, and they didn't just let them be unrefined. They refined and over, and what's come out is therefore better. This song being one example. I included a tiny detail. Let's see. Each stanza of "Yet Not I," the next to last statement is a statement like, "Oh, how strange and divine, I can sing all is mine." That something could come almost boasting about something we have in Christ, but it ends with "Yet not I, but through Christ in me," which is the title. "Oh, the night has been won, and I shall overcome. Yet not I, but through Christ in me. Oh, the chains are released, I can sing, I am free. Yet not I, but through Christ in me." And it does that every time. It's structured in a formal way, like a hymn, though it was written 2 years ago, but is written with constraints like a sonnet in that respect. L, lyrically robust. I gave it a real high score.
Fantastic. Yeah. Let's go to the T.
Yes.
The T is the theologically accurate.
Yes.
Pass, fail. Not a 1 through 10.
That's right.
Yep. So obviously you gave it a pass because we're singing it.
That's right. No way. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very, very, very careful to make sure that is the case. Songs we've had to reject because there's been a question about the T.
Yeah.
Got to make sure the T's in place.
So
But,
not
yeah.
to put you on the spot, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this. So what would be an example of a song, and it may be a popular song that's out there, but that you have rejected because it failed at the T? Does one come to mind?
Yeah, some do. There are some where there are questions and controversy enough that it wouldn't be profitable. It wouldn't be profitable to sing it and to invest the time in teaching it,
Yeah.
because there's just this gray area there. But there are songs that I can't, in good conscience, sing. Obviously, let's see. I had a songbook one time from an a cappella group I enjoyed that sang hymn arrangements. And then the songbook I was reading were lyrics to one of the songs they sing I didn't recognize. And it had this line, "Come with me to Cumorah." And it was a wonderful, the harmonies were great. But I was like, I don't understand this song. They're singing these hymn arrangements. I don't know this hymn. And Cumorah is that hill in upstate New York where the Mormons believe a great battle took place in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
So it's a Mormon hymn, and there's a reason I didn't know. It's like, whoops, okay, I can't be considering that at all. That is theologically inaccurate. I could not in good conscience even lead that song, even if the congregation were wanting it, because I don't believe it personally. And unfortunately, that is the test. So recently, probably the most popular one that I had to really kind of take a stand on was the song, a song the Hillsong put out, "So Will I," 100 billion times, I think is the subtitle. There is a line in the second verse or second pre-chorus, and it has, I don't have it in front of me, but and when you speak, speaking of God, 100 billion creatures, 100 million creatures catch their breath, evolving in pursuit of what they said. And as I read that, and in my prayerful interpretation, I do not subscribe to that view. I'm in study and conviction. I believe what the Bible says in the first 12 chapters of Genesis to be historically accurate and useful.
Yeah, right.
Therefore, a young earth creationist is what I am. Those are my beliefs about that, and therefore that is could be described as progressive creation, theistic evolution, day-age theory, whatever you want to call it. There's really no way around it. That stanza is there. I remember my wife and I attended a Catalyst conference as part of a group, and when we were there, we'd already considered the song, and I had to take a stand and say, I can't do it, and we rejected it. They sang it at that conference, and I had to make a quick call, and I can't sing it. So that would be an example of a song that I can't in good conscience
Great
sing.
example. Yep,
Yeah.
great example.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the last, letter
Yes,
S. Is it singable? So what did you write here about, yet not I, but Christ in me?
Eminently singable. I gave it a 10 also. There is even the original key of the recording, my test was, does it go between C and C? And that can change depending on key signature, but it's in the key of C. It does, like, wow, they knew I was going to be evaluating this. What are you doing? It's in C. It stays in a textbook singable range. It's interesting. It's encouraging to sing. People don't think it's any kind of a pedestrian melody. It's a good singable, exciting melody, but it stays exactly in the octave. Very singable. What gift of grace? Well, no, I'm sorry, it goes low. I need to correct myself on the podcast. It goes down a little lower. What gift of grace is Jesus, my Redeemer? It goes down to an A, but it doesn't go any higher than that C.
Most of our listeners probably don't know the A's, the C's.
No, not checking me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's all
that's right. It's very gentle on voices, and it's a very simple rhythm.
Yep.
Eminently singable.
Good. Great. Well, I'm enjoying the song. I really like it. I've heard it before and sang it before.
Yes, sir.
But not here. So it's been a really good addition. So what's some whet our appetite? What's some songs maybe coming that we have not sung before? And what is your philosophy on introducing a new song?
Well, and it's something that I come in, and it absolutely can and should be, has been refined by you, because this is not something we do in a vacuum. What is Canaan used to? What's been done in the past? Great successful songs. I'm grateful to Kevin and Justin and the leadership for introducing songs like King of Kings. In just the recent past, those are just keepers, wonderful songs, and they introduce those well. The way what we have done is, and as you suggested, no more than once a month at this time to introduce it, and then depending on seasons we might even wait a little longer, have a little time with Easter's coming and things like that. So we are planning on one in early February, and I'll list a couple absolutely. And this in January we sang the whole song while the congregation listened and pondered, and then we reminded them the next week of how it went briefly and had them sing at that point. Then a couple weeks later had them do it again. This time I think we're doing it as a prelude, doing a portion, and then a few minutes later asking them to stand. They'll have it in their ears. It's a little different. Finding the right flavor of what's too fast and what's too slow for Canaan. It's a balance. But I tell you, you suggested the song by King's Kaleidoscope, All Glory Be to Christ. And I initially asked, because I love that song too, and we evaluated it and went through it. I said, Pastor, it's a winner, and you concur that it's a winner. What order do we introduce these? It's the tune of All Glory Be to Christ is Auld Lang Syne. Do we need to have this at the new year? And you said, no, let's wait. If it's going to be good, it's going to be good any point in the year. But it's wonderful. That one is coming. I think it's we might have it slated for March, thereabouts. It might change. Don't hold us to it. But it's a very rich song, King's Kaleidoscope, All Glory Be to Christ. Very glad you'd suggested that one. The one coming up in February fills a need that is always something to consider in this line of work, this line of ministry, and that's finding a good high-energy opening song to kind of get people's blood flowing, get them to wake up, the coffee's kicking in, first thing in the morning, usually a high-energy song, but can it still be rich? Can it still be singable? Can it still be exciting, but have a rhythm that's followable? And we think this next one to try is Rejoice by Dustin Kensrue. That's Kensrue, in case anyone wants to look it up. Dustin Kensrue. It's a 8 or 9 year old song. It's a high energy choice. I'm just blown away by what it says in the verses. In the chorus, there's an admonition to rejoice. Come lift your hands, raise your voice. He is worthy of our praise. Rejoice. Sing the worship of our King, and with trembling rejoice. But then the verses are so rich and meaningful, especially verse 3. All our sickness, all our sorrows, Jesus carried up the hill. He has walked this path before us. He's walking with us still, turning tragedy to triumph, turning agony to praise. There is blessing in the battle, so take heart and stand amazed. Rejoice. When you cry to him, he hears your voice. Rejoice. And see, I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to remember these words. But that goes into there from there. I'm just geeked out.
You remember all of verse 3. Verse 3 is usually the verse we leave out. And here you are quoting it. So
yes, sir. But it's wonderful. So we're excited about that one, obviously.
Good. Yeah. Good. Well, that's exciting. It's exciting stuff.
Yes, sir.
So going ahead, right? So let's say some of our listeners, they have a heart song, a song that really ministers to them, and they would love for us to sing it at Canaan. What's the process that they should go through? And is there a guarantee we'll sing it?
These are good questions.
Not to put you on the spot, but
well, I think and again, I don't want to put you on the spot and try to answer for you. I crave the suggestions and the counsel. I think if maybe there were a situation where we were insecure about the process of what we're going through, or less accountable about this process, it might be, I don't know if they suggest, because maybe they'll think we're going to be obligated, and then if we don't do it, they'll feel insulted. But very openly, there is no way that I can be listening enough to hear all the good stuff. You can be listening enough to hear all the good stuff, even if that's all we did all day.
Right.
We need the multitude of counsel. There is safety, and in this case, there is as well. There are wonderful songs and suggestions from all eras. We sing songs from many different eras, and should continue to introduce songs that aren't just bleeding edge or no newer than 300 years old. It should be a variety, and we want people to suggest those, and then they know and they need to understand our process. It will go through the process same as any other song. And if they ask, and I've never had anyone ask, but if they ask, why isn't that song there? we can tell them honestly, and I can pull up in my email records when I blew up Pastor Daniel's inbox. We rated it, and it was this area that we didn't feel was strong. The L, it just wasn't quite as robust as we wanted. It didn't make the cut. And whether or not they're mad about that or sad about that, I do want them to come to me and express that. But at least we can say, here's how we took your heartfelt suggestion seriously. Because music is important. I've never had anyone say music is unimportant. There's preferences all over the place, but it's precious in some way to most everybody.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, great. Well, thank you, Pastor Nathan. So if you do have any questions, or if you do have a suggestion,
Please.
or a recommendation or a request, however you want to phrase that, feel free to send him an email for Nathan, nreeves@canaanstl.org.
That's great.
Also, if you have any questions at all about anything we covered today in the podcast with song selection and singing as such an integral part of worship. Singing is not all of worship. It is an integral part of worship, however. And so we're very glad to be able to do that corporately together week in and week out for the glory of God. Well, thank you for tuning in today and listening to this podcast. And thank you again, Pastor Nathan, for joining us. And,
my pleasure.
keep praying for Pastor Martin and Terry as they are looking to get back home to their families and to us here at church. So until then, we'll talk to you next time here on Canaan STL Podcast.